Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and man, there is a lot going on in Raiderland right now. So as such, we have a ton of questions from inside the Red Raider subscribers. And now, look, I got over 20 questions this week. There was no way I could answer all those in this space. So if I didn't get to your question, I apologize. Ask it in the weekly chat, the Hump Day chat on Wednesday, or try again next week. I'm not avoiding your questions. There's just only so much time in this space to answer all your questions. They're all really good though, so like I said, be sure to hit up the chat on Wednesday and I'll answer your question if it didn't get answered here in the mailbag. So with that, I'm going to dive right into it. Anonymous asks, where does Texas Tech's recruiting class finish in 2022 and 2023? I assume you're talking about football. So with that, man, since Joey Mcguire was announced as the head coach, I mean, he's picked up commits both in the 2022 and 2023 class. The Texas Tech's 2022 class jumped from like 70th to in the mid 40s, which is, that's quite the jump already with those 3 Cedar Hill commits. We have interviewed all 3 of those Cedar Hill commits, poured over their huddle tape, talked to people who have seen them play in person, and I'm really impressed. Jalen Peoples, Harvey Dyson, Sincere Massey, got big time cornerback, 2 very good defensive linemen. Those are huge additions. So I'm expecting multiple commits for the 2022-2023 class. I mean, more than one commit to Texas Tech between the 2 classes this weekend alone. It's a huge visitor weekend. There's at least one guy that I'll say I feel very, very, very confident that he's going to commit this weekend, but there's multiple others that I've heard might commit. And the way Joey Mcguire has been closing, wow. So bottom line is they're going to end up with a pretty sizable class compared to what we've seen here recently. And that's where it's at. Volume really helps your class ranking. Obviously, the rating of the recruit helps as well. But I expect this class to be the 2022 class, when it's all said and done, definitely top 40, maybe around 35. Now, 2023, I've already gone on record saying I believe it's going to be a top 30 class, perhaps even a top 25 class. And my reason is this. I've been talking right now, at this moment, I have like 7 running interviews via direct messages and texts and other social media and stuff right now with recruits. And the one thing I keep hearing is either the recruit himself just loves Joey Mcguire. Like, he's a different dude. They trust him in a way that I haven't heard talked about any of the coaches, position coaches, recruiting coordinators, whatever, in the almost decade that I've been here covering Texas Tech. So between that and the connections and how those connections help is what I'm hearing is like from high school coaches that they're going out of their way to help Joey Mcguire here at Texas Tech. That is invaluable. It's really hard to put a value on. So you put all that together, I think 2022, top 40, 2023, top 30, maybe even top 25, which is really exciting. All right, Ryden Fearless says, can Tech run the ball against Oklahoma State? First off, it was really good to see you before the Iowa State game. I said, hey, maybe they'll shock the world. I didn't predict Tech would win, but they shocked the world, so that was really cool. One of the things they were able to do was run the ball against a pretty salty Iowa State rush defense. So I think Donovan Smith provides another dimension that helps loosen up run defenses. That being said, they faced another very extremely formidable rush defense in Oklahoma State. Will they run for over 200 yards against the Cowboys like they did against the Cyclones? I'm skeptical of that, but I do think they will have some success, more success than other teams have. So somewhere around 150 yards I can see, because Donovan Smith really does add that other dimension that helps keep that defensive end home and provides running lanes for your running backs. The offensive line has really steadily improved as a running offense, and I really like what Sonny Cumbie's been doing here, mixing things up. I like the fact that they've or at least last week they did away with signals. I asked him if he's going to continue doing that. He said we'll see some of that. Of course, you don't want to give away everything, but I really like that. This could be more of a mystery what Tech is going to try and do for defenses, which will make it harder for them, and it makes you wonder why everybody doesn't do that now all the time. But anyways, bottom line is I think they'll have some, not as much success as they did against Iowa State, but they'll still be able to run the ball. Yes. DH Tech says, are there any updates on what Joey Mcguire has been up to in Lubbock this week? Yeah, he's been recruiting. Yeah, I mean, there's all these offers have been flying out left and right. This is a really good question because, and I'm going to get to this part of it here later, but Mcguire has kind of taken a back seat and let Sonny Cumbie do his thing in the current coaching staff, which is a really smart move, classy, the right move to do. But in the background, he is recruiting him and James Blanchard, the guy he brought in with him from Baylor, the director of player personnel. I've been just recruiting like crazy, and trust me, we're going to see some more dividends here. He already has 5 commits since he's been here, but we're going to see a lot more. Like I said, I believe this starting this weekend. But also fundraising. He's gone to Midland at least once or twice. Spoke to some and hung out with Letterman at different places. Really just trying to rally the fan base. I mean, he's recruiting and trying to get more money to the program, which sounds like 2 pretty good ideas. I don't know exactly which coaches he's talked to. I'd be lying if I said I did, but I'm assuming he's also hard at work at assembling his staff for once the season's over. Denver Red Raider says, was there any comments or official response from Joey Mcguire after the Iowa State game? If there was, he just missed seeing it. He's curious if he talked to the media and what was said. He had to like what he saw, he would think. Yeah, no, and that's what I was saying. I think it is the right move, in my humble opinion. For Coach Mcguire came in, he was introduced, great like pep rally type thing. He did great with the Q&A, but then it's back to the team, and Sonny Cumbie is the interim head coach through the bowl game, according to what Kirby Hocutt said. So, and they have this staff here working hard. Now, obviously, they haven't given up. They're not like a bad seed. I mean, they're doing it the right way. They put a lot into these players. The players are playing hard for them. They pull off that epic upset at Iowa State last week. And I think, while I'm sure Mcguire is saying he says stuff on social media, things like that. But in terms of him getting in front of the media, getting in front of us, I think he's doing the right thing and letting Cumbie have his time. I mean, Cumbie's earned that. This coaching staff's earned that. So would these players. So I think while he told us he's going to be talking with those players, there's no doubt he's involved. In terms of publicly, he's going about the right way and letting the people who were here and have put a lot of work and effort and all that into this team and these players, he's letting them do their thing, which I think is, again, the right thing. All right, SK Raider 13 says, is there any chance the coaches are trying to flip Kobe McKenzie, or has that ship sailed? I think there's definitely at one point I heard, there wasn't a lot of contact, but I think there's a check-in there. Because I think if something were to happen, for whatever reason, with his scholarship to Oklahoma, and that's where Kobe McKenzie is committed to, and he is a linebacker for Lubbock Cooper here locally. He was one time committed to Tech and then flipped to Oklahoma. But I really don't think in the end he ends up at Texas Tech. But I think you take a flyer and say, hey, we're interested in case something happens. But no, I don't think they're spending a lot of time and resources trying to flip Kobe McKenzie. Now, Kyler Jordan, who was committed to Baylor, his teammate at Lubbock Cooper, a guy I really like. I've seen play at least once or twice in person, but of course watched a bunch of his highlights and interviewed and talked with him a bunch. He's a stud. Tech wasn't high on him. There was a clamor, and I was as much of a part of it as anybody. Why haven't you offered this guy? Inside the Red Raiders on social media to offer Kyler Jordan. But I know that Texas, the past regime, not Joey Mcguire, but the coaches that had been here, didn't know what to do with Kyler Jordan because they looked at him as a tweener. They didn't think he was big enough to be a defensive lineman in their scheme, nor fast and athletic enough to be a linebacker. And I just totally disagree with that. I think he's a heck of a football player. You find a position for a player like that. He's like a really good football player. And you don't let them go get out of your backyard and go play for an in-state conference rival. It's just a huge mistake. We've seen that play out time and time again here in Lubbock. So I'm really expecting, quite honestly, and hoping that Joey Mcguire flips Jordan from Baylor, where of course Mcguire was, to Tech. And then, I don't think they'll have a problem finding a position for him to play in. OBX Raider says, what's the latest on our injury stats? Yeah, I don't have a big update. Travis Kuntz, the tight end, is going to be out, Sonny Cumbie said, and I hate to hear that because, was the last game at the Jones. But you are getting, some guys back at the position, like Mason Tharp you're getting back, which I really like. 6'9", 2, even Coach Mcguire mentioned him in his intro or in his Q&A that, 6'9", 255, whatever he is, 200, really big dude who could run really fast and is very athletic. Sounds pretty good to me. So I'm glad to be getting him back. I hate that for Travis Koontz that he's going to miss, senior night, but I am interested to see what Tharp could do here in the home finale. Jackie Ballgame says, Keith Patterson's scheme improvements. He wants to know about that. He says, do I think it's an adjustment or outside influence? I think, I'll just say this. It's safe to say there was an outside influence saying, hey, come on, we got to stop the run. Quit with these soft boxes, But then again, you got to give Patterson credit. I know whether it was coach speak or not, Sonny Cumbie in his Tuesday press conference earlier this week gave Patterson and the entire defensive coaching staff a lot of credit for adjusting their scheme, which, at one point I was told in one of these press conferences that, it's too late to adjust your scheme or whatever, which I find that crazy. You have to be able to adjust your scheme mid-season, mid-game, mid-drive, if be it. What I like, what we saw against Iowa State, and we saw against Kansas State too, which it should have worked against them. And this is what most of us have been saying. Look, you can't let guys just walk down the field, walk up and down the field, run the ball, like we saw Texas and TCU. So you got to stop the run. Number one, you got to stop the run. And then, look, Tech's pass defense is going to be a problem. They were never going to solve that this year, especially with some of the injuries that they've suffered. So you're just going to have to compete in the back end and hope it's enough. Hope your offense outscores what these teams are doing. Because what you see is these teams, Kansas State and Iowa State, come out and they try and line up and run over Texas Tech, which who wouldn't after seeing the TCU and Texas tape? When it didn't work in either case, then they said, okay, look, let's spread them out 5 wide and let's just pick them apart. Just go down the field. And we saw that against Kansas State. They had a lot of success, and we saw that against Iowa State with Kohler, the tight end, just destroying Tech's secondary. But Tech played good enough defensively to win against Kansas State. They got shut out offensively in the second half. And then against Iowa State, they obviously did enough defensively to get that win, that 41-38 victory on that 62-yard field goal by Jonathan Garibay. So that's the recipe. If Oklahoma State comes out and spreads Tech wide early, I'll be surprised. But then again, Mike Gundy's cagey. He's a really good coach. Maybe that's what he'll do, and then go to the run later in the game. If they do that, that's a recipe for disaster for Tech, because I don't know if Patterson's going to be able to adjust like that on the fly. We're just going to have to see. But if they try and line up and run over Tech, I think Tech's going to have some success, easy for me to say, in slowing them down initially. And then we'll have to see. At least you're in the game. You're in the chess match, and we'll see what happens from there. But I definitely think there's an outside influence, because one of the things that's marked the previous coaching staff was kind of a hard-headedness. Like, I'm not going to listen to what anybody says outside this place. We know we're good coaches. We know what we're doing. And I'm not saying they're not good coaches, but the schemes against Texas and TCU were inexcusable. So I'm just glad that whoever deserves credit for it, I'm glad that they did change the scheme, and that they're competitive, and they're allowing their players who are good players, in a lot of cases, they have some good players on this team who have sacrificed and done a lot in order to win. I'm glad that they did enough to be bowl eligible. They've salvaged a decent season and put these guys in place to possibly find more success towards the end of the season. This is the question I've been waiting for this entire mailbag. Eastland, who's a great poster on the site, asks simply, Chiefs or Cowboys? Of course, Kansas City Chiefs, led by Patrick Mahomes, the great Patrick Mahomes, are playing my beloved Dallas Cowboys, I think 3:30 on Sunday. My boy and I can't wait for this game. I'll tell you that, my boy Lucas and I, because he's a huge Mahomes fan, but we're Cowboys fans. As a matter of fact, I want to make it just crystal clear, because I think most of you watching this, or if you follow me on Twitter, or even on, of course, on Inside the Red Raiders, I'm a Cowboys fan, but I'm not just a Cowboys fan. I'm a womb to the tomb Cowboys fan, which, if you don't know what that means, it means I was born a Cowboys fan. I'm going to die a Cowboys fan, no matter what happens. And look, I come by it honestly. My entire family, we're all Cowboy fans. My dad literally grew up in the shadow of the Cotton Bowl. He sold programs at the first Cotton Bowl. all my grandparents, my grandmothers, my grandfathers were all bigger Cowboy fans than I am. My brother, my cousin, we're all Cowboys fans, and we're all gonna be, you know. So who am I rooting for? The Dallas Cowboys. I hope they win 100,000 to nothing. And look, that's nothing against Pat. I'm a huge Mahomes fan. I mean, I'm huge. The first guy I interviewed when I took this job, before I even moved out here to Lubbock, was just the guy who was the junior quarterback commit. So I thought, who is that? It was Patrick Mahomes. That's the first guy I interviewed when I took this job. He's a great guy. And, oh, by the way, grew up a Cowboys fan. And in the times and the years, him and I interacted, or even just talking whatever between the actual interviews, we talked about the Cowboys a lot. So, I mean, I know this game is special for him. I'm expecting Mahomes to turn in a very special performance. And I think it's going to be very difficult for the Cowboys to overcome, to be quite honest. In this one singular case, I hope it ends in an L for Patrick Mahomes. But otherwise, I hope him wild. Of course, I root for him. He's truly one of the good guys. You know, people say that kind of stuff, but he really is a good dude. He's a guy who's very easy to root for. Of course, he's one of the greatest talents of his generation. So, you know, other than this week, or unless they meet up in the Super Bowl, I wish the best for Patrick Mahomes, that's for sure. But nah, I hope the Cowboys crush them. Slayton67 says, when will we hear about new staff members? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we've heard some leaks here and there, but what I've been told, really from the beginning of this process, was that the assistant coaches will be announced after the Baylor game, which is the season finale. So, you know, not too long from now, a couple weeks from now, either the day after or a couple days after the final regular season game, that will start happening. So maybe things will leak before that, but that's when we'll really get a crystal picture of a lot of the staff. I don't know if we'll have all the staff. I don't know if he has it all in place or not, but that's the timeline that I have been told. Raider Fan 01 says, so far he's been very impressed with the new coach, Joe Mcguire, especially grabbing 3 recruits on the first day. He says, the question is, does Mcguire have national connections, or is he going to mainly key on Texas and especially West Texas for recruits? I don't know. I wouldn't say he has national connections. I think he has regional connections. Well, I know he has regional connections because I've talked with people outside of Texas in the region who are very aware of him and respect him and all that. But no, he's going to make hay, for lack of a better term, in Texas and in West Texas. He said, I really believe he's going to make a concerted effort to get the very best out of West Texas. Like, that's keep him home, as he said. But yeah, in terms of the Metroplex, but not even just the Metroplex, all over the state, he has great connections. And why? I mean, I'm not saying if there's a guy you really like and you feel like you have some kind of relationship through one of your coaches outside Texas, then sure. But this talent pool here in Texas, if you can tap that and you have great relationships throughout the state, you don't really have to go elsewhere. I mean, your entire roster can be from Texas, and you can be competitive and win a lot. So, I expect, like he even said the transfers he wants from the transfer portal to be from Texas. I expect easily over 90% of the roster to be made up of native Texans. That's being conservative. I mean, maybe be like 95 or something like that, which I'm a big fan of. I mean, this is as good as high school football gets here in Texas, so why not? INTB says he's sure, I've mentioned this before, but he was listening to the Late Kick with Josh Pate, who does a great job for 24/7 Sports. Oh, by the way, he says, and he had rave reviews for the food that Baylor gives in the press box. What does Tech give y'all, and who has the best food from the different stadiums you've been to? Yeah, well, the best stadium is, how they treat you the best is Jerry World, of course, AT&T Stadium with the Cowboys that I've been to. Now, it's not college, but of course they have college games. And what's funny with that, I'll say, so for pros, everything's free, and there's a whole giant table, huge table with cookies and candy and cupcakes and all that. They give you some kind of a nice meal at the start of the game, and then by halftime it's hot dogs, and then at the end of the game, they tap the beer kegs. They have 3 different beer kegs going. And I'm just going to say, the first time I covered I don't know how many games I covered. I had season credentials a couple of years when I was at the Star-Telegram covering the Cowboys, which is, you can imagine. You want to talk about no rooting in the press box. I mean, I was bite my lip to not, especially when Cowboys, Redskins, But anyways, the first time I covered a game and they did that, I was like, looked over, I think it was actually Randy Galloway, and I said, man, was that for us? And he said, he just kind of laughed at me. He said, yep. And I said, do you drink here? He goes, yep. And I was like, okay. So I had that, I remember that day in particular, I had the visiting team locker room notebook. So I was in there, I was like, like hurry up, because I want to get my story done and go drink the beer. And I ended up having an Uber. I didn't want to get a DUI leaving Jerry World. And of course, I always try to Uber to be safe. But no, that blew my mind. Free beer. Get to cover the Cowboys, go talk to the opposing team, all that, and then get free beer. That's the best spread I've ever had. I don't know if they do free beer. And I can tell you some stories about old timers getting drunk covering the game that I've heard from old timers in the business. And wow, man, we are really tame compared to, if you think what I did was crazy or unprofessional, you should have seen how it was back in the day with the old timers, or heard about that. But in terms of Texas Tech spread, no, they do a great job. And I'm not just saying that. Texas Tech is first class all the way. They treat media so well. I've covered TCU, A&M, more, all kinds of teams. And Tech's right up there. They do a great job. What's interesting is they used to have a more eclectic spread. Now they do basically a standard thing where it's hot dogs, hamburgers, the nacho bar, that's my go-to. And then they have ice cream and candy and coffee and chips and muffins and all that, cookies. So, I mean, they treat us right up there. There's no doubt. I have no complaints. My biggest complaint would just be like that we're like 10 floors up or whatever it is. We're so far from the field. And I've been to other places like, of all the places, Arkansas and Fayetteville. I mean, all press boxes, you can open the window and get hear the crowd and everything. But when you're that far up, I mean, you just feel kind of like you're in a mausoleum, but you do get like the coach's view, which helps me in terms of X's and O's, I feel like. But Fayetteville is like, you're right there. You're amongst the crowd. They open it all the way up to where it's just, I mean, you feel like you're in the crowd. And I thought that was really cool compared to being up in the mausoleum. But in terms of how Tech treats you, first class. So, no doubt. So, with that, though, man, great round of questions. Looking forward to next week, of course. Thank you for watching, and until next time.